Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sara Jane, and I am delighted to be joined by Kristi Borst for our program this evening. Hi, Kristi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sara Jane. Hi, everyone.
Okay, let me introduce Kristi by sharing her bio. But I'm going to say first, our topic: retrieving the keys to your kingdom. So let me share a little about Kristi. Kristi Borst is joining us. Actually, you're not currently in Wells, Maine, are you?
I am not.
But
I have my snowbird wings on.
All right. He's usually in Wells, Maine, which is in New England, about an hour north of Boston, Massachusetts. Like many of us, Kristi was ordered to shut down her spiritual gifts as a toddler. She was such an obedient child that she eventually forgot they were awaiting rediscovery within herself until nearly 50 years later. Since 2013, Kristi continues to step ever more consciously into her innate energies of intuitive quantum healer, empowerment catalyst, fractal artist, inner peace ambassador, and spiritual alchemist. In addition to offering her Perspective Reboot, spiritual energy healing, worldwide via webcam, Kristi is co-author of 2 bestsellers, Be the Beacon and Unmuted Voices, and she will be showing you those later. She also offers an online catalogue of on-demand core healing sessions focused on breast wellness, shoulder pain, inner peace, and individualized chakra healing balancing. You can visit her at her online at www.intuitivehealingresonance.com, and I'm going to put that into the chat right now, but we will come back to that later. Kristi, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Inner child are the words that really speak to me.
Yes.
And I'm going to say hi to Janet and Sheila as well, who have joined us. So thank you, both of you, and anybody else who wishes to ask questions or comment, please do. We will keep an eye on that. But first and foremost, Kristi, please share a little of your story and why this particular topic.
So what I have kind of found out about myself, and I think, we all have these epiphanies or situations in which we can understand ourselves more because of things that we uncover in maybe the things that we have avoided. So for me, what I have realized kind of starting from 2010 to 2013, I kind of entered this phase that I would call like a deprogramming phase. And that actually started with an interaction with an American bald eagle when I was driving my car. And I feel that interaction awakened something within me. And as I started to question what I thought I knew about the world and what I thought I knew about myself, I actually started having interest in all things psychic, all things woo-woo, as we say here in the U.S. And I had a reading in, I think, 2011 when I was... at that point, I was doing some energy healing, not officially as my Healing Resonance LLC, but I sat down with a Native American reader because a couple friends had said, you need to go and have a reading with him. And when I sat down, he just kept repeating to me, you're a great healer, right? And after about, the 9th or 10th time of me, shrugging or, saying, I guess so, I finally said, well, if I am, I don't know how to get there from here. And he said, that's because when you were a child, you performed a miracle and your parents told you to never do it again. And when he said that, a fuller version of a small snippet of a movie that had kind of visited me over the years played out, and I could see that situation. So I kind of used that as a jumping point to kind of dive into myself more. And at first it was through readings with other people. And then eventually I could kind of access the information myself, either in my waking time or through dream time, journeying. So I think it was the end of 2012, another thing happened, which, I had another kind of situation where I helped somebody in the grocery store to heal an emotional trauma. I just was called to do that. And this was actually in Sedona, Arizona, which is kind of known as a spiritual center. And it just struck me as so odd that here I am, this person from Maine, kind of called to Sedona where, all these, what I would say spiritual people are, to help this person that no one else was helping. And so at that point, my husband was quite ill. He had a skin condition which doctors and dermatologists couldn't help him with. And I said, hey, I'm allegedly this great healer. Will you let me work on you? And he said, yes. And he got better. So that was a gift to us because he stands behind me 1,000%. But what interests me most with inner child healing is that I believe that child self who came here ready to be a healer and was shut down, thwarted, put away in the closet, still wants to do her work. And so when I partner with people in session, inner child healing just naturally is part of the work we do. And as I want to talk with you about today, I feel that a lot of our kind of woundings or the boxes that we place ourselves in that limit us or disempower us were adopted in childhood.
I think so listening to sort of all that you're saying, and that yes, there are absolutely those people that came. And I know I came here to help with healing, but I know that my story, if I hadn't gone through what I went through as a child, I wouldn't be able to do what I do today, because that was the gift to myself to go through that experience so that I could do what I do. Absolutely. And yes, as with all of us, there had to be a wake up. So did you have a specific wake up?
So I think probably the first one was that interaction where I was driving down the highway, 65 miles per hour. I don't know what that is in kilometers.
Neither do I.
But I had cars on either side, cars behind me, and I could see up in the distance this eagle flying up the river toward the highway, and it landed in my travel lane. And I knew I couldn't stop, and I telepathically just said to the eagle, I can't avoid hitting you, please fly. And it started running toward my car. I had a minivan at that point, and at one point it actually flew up the windshield. And that was the wake up. And after that, I think within a week, I saw an ad in the paper for Reiki attunement. I had no idea what it was. I just knew I had to do it. So I did it. And then I started learning to, watch the signs, look for the signs that, who knows how many I missed. But yes, to get back to your point, I feel that the wounds that I have, the emotions that I hold, and I was told I was too sensitive as a child, those are portals for me to be able to work with other people. to get into that feeling within them and help them transform it. So absolutely, I have no regrets about what happened. I mean, what is a family going to do with a healing 3-year-old in 1961? I feel like the world still isn't ready, to a large extent for much of what we're doing.
No, 100%. I sort of, but more and more people gratefully are opening to it. And that's what it's all about. It's why we keep sharing the information we keep sharing. And children can only be guided by their parents and their grandparents and their teachers and their religious people and whatever. Because, and I'm just thinking about the younger we are. So a 3-year-old, I don't know how good your vocabulary was and how good your understanding of some of the terminology and things. But as a young child, until you get to experience a feeling and somebody can tell you what that feeling is called, and they could be wrong, that's how we gauge what these things are. That's how we name things.
Yes.
And the younger we are, there's no way we can put a name on those things.
Right. Or there's a situation. Oh, shoot. That's my phone.
Go on, set it up.
Oh, it's way across the room. So maybe I could just mute myself temporarily here.
No, that's fine. Carry on. Don't worry. Hey, we're human beings. These things happen.
Well, we can just dance a little bit. Yeah, so I think that for me, I know that I believed, or as children, I think I put this in the intro, we come in really knowing divine mind. We're connected to divine mind. We're connected to all the information in the universe, but we can't communicate that because we don't have language skills. We can't sign. We can hardly operate our bodies. And then, we're kind of groomed almost to, believe this is what a human being is. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier of a deprogramming phase of just questioning some of the things that I was feeling were not true. I'll give you a couple examples of those. You only have one life to live. I have waking memories of other lifetimes that I've lived, so I know that's not true. So I had to get to that point of not holding on to that belief. And I wrote that down. Where is that? Maybe I dropped it. I kind of see beliefs as there's a lie in the middle of that. If you put small b, capital L-I-E, small f, you've got to look at your beliefs and weed out the lies. And I don't mean lies in like a malicious way. Just, it's the party line. It's what we've been taught to protect us, to keep us safe. Our parents don't want us to be embarrassed out in public saying, we've got our unicorn with us or whatever, right? So we get told that's not real. So I think a big part of what I encourage people to do is to be more childlike and look at the world as if you don't know what the world is, and let go of some of the constraints that you've agreed to hold in your vision of what you're able to see. So, that you've only got one life to live. You're a speck of sand, or, there's something that minimizes humans. You're just a piece of dirt in the, but there's actually a Bible verse that says, something to the effect of, wherever you stand is holy ground. It's holy ground because you're standing there. So a lot of, I think, soul empowerment, a lot of healing is to start to shed some of the beliefs, some of the indoctrinations that actually make you feel bad about yourself. Because ultimately, we're all connected to the breath that breathes us. Some people call that God, some people call it the universe, some people call it source. I prefer to call it source or love. And so if we can't love our own self, then that's blocking us from loving that source from which we come. So that's a big part of my motivation, always to kind of weed out the darkness within myself, is to hold more light, to feel more connected to all that is, to be able to embody that light in this world that surely needs light and happiness and joy. And the win-win situation of that is we get to live in that happy vibe of, feeling good about ourselves and feeling like we're walking through the world, happy to have a smile on our face. There was a situation, I think, maybe it was back in 2010, where I was walking in the grocery store and I noticed everybody was smiling at me. And I was like, wow, why is everybody smiling at me? And then I realized I was smiling, and everybody was smiling at me because I was smiling at them. So, little things can really change the way we see the world and how we experience the world.
They say we teach everybody how to treat us. And that's by the way we are. So if we find that we're in an angry mood, we're going to be angry, and that's likely to be how we're treated. That smile, I remember years ago, I think I was going for a blood test. It was something in the hospital. It was something along the lines of, a smile is contagious. Let's start an epidemic. And it was so sort of, and absolutely, the traumas I went through led to me being a people pleaser and having absolutely no idea who I was. I didn't come anywhere on the list of anything, to be perfectly honest. Everything was about everybody else. And I was absolutely in that place of totally worrying about what other people thought about me. I was scared to do anything, the fear. And it was that light bulb moment. And I remember standing in the kitchen at the house that we were in at the time. And it was that light bulb. Why am I worrying about what other people think about me when they're not? And it was just the weight lifted off my shoulders. It was almost like a physical weight off my shoulders. And I'd already broken my marriage up, much to his dismay. It was about finding me. And as you've said, it's about going through everything and sort of, is this right for me? Is this wrong for me? And actually the letting go of the marriage was one of the things that was very definitely right for me. And that was the second marriage. There haven't been any more because I'm actually quite happy being single. And that's over 20 years ago. So it's finding, but it's being able to be on your own, being able to be happy in your own company.
Yes.
Rather than being fearful about, I'm not on my own. And there are an awful lot of people that can't be on their own.
Right. Or can't be in silence. That's one of the things I've noticed is, there is so much wisdom that can be found in the silence, and yet people never give themselves that space to be in the silence.
Yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Can I go back to something you said, Sara Jane?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you do this, but for the benefit of those who may watch this. So for when I'm working with someone and they say, being a people pleaser is, something I've done since I was a child. I always worry about what other people think of me. I kind of call that a root wound. This is something that, it's deep in there, right? So we as empowered adults have to kind of watch for that. We have to watch for that little energy, because when we engage with that, in your case, maybe putting everybody ahead of you or thinking that your needs aren't important, then you're not honoring and healing that child self, but also you can be self-sabotaging. Where and how you're supposed to be showing up when you fall back into that pattern. So I think it's really important that we identify these root wounds so we are monitoring them and shutting them down with love rather than letting them unconsciously run us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because of what happened with me, the becoming of understanding it, becoming aware of the full story, not just the black and white of I was left in hospital and I got to see them once a week for an hour. That was abandonment, although I didn't have those words, abandonment, rejection, even in my vocabulary at that point in time. And they say that with trauma, all the things we're talking about, the people pleasing, etc., they are symptoms of trauma. And yes. And if you go into post-traumatic stress, and there's a complicated, and I don't think that's the quite word, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that has then symptoms of things like ADHD and dyslexia, etc. So there's considerably more to it. And the reason I know this, not because I've researched it, because my complex PTSD, that's what it's called. Because my youngest sister at the age of 55 was diagnosed with dyslexia, ADHD, autism spectrum, complex PTSD. But having read certain things that crop up every now and again, the symptoms of some of the other three actually can come from the complex PTSD. It didn't even exist as a known thing 67 years ago.
Well, as a person that works with the emotional underpinnings of physical illness and pain, I will tell you that, really everything, not everything physical, everything in our bodies, everything in our world starts as non-physical. So it makes sense that if someone has had trauma as a child and they've not been able to, well, first of all, feel it. A lot of times we haven't been allowed to, in that time and space, even acknowledge that something happened. Maybe we were said, oh, you're okay, you're fine, don't cry, you're making a fuss out of this. So we stuff that discordant energy, I'll call it, in part of our body, or it's in our mind. And that keeps the physical body from doing what it's designed to do, which is self-heal. So, I'm sorry that your sister has had to experience that, but it's kind of totally not surprising if, she wasn't able to really illuminate with love and healing, things that she experienced as trauma as a child or as a young adult or, yesterday.
But then, okay, with my sister, sort of her reaction was, oh, great. Now I know why I am the way I am. I'm wired differently, and she really is wired differently. I know I've got aspects of dyslexia. I have no intention of getting any form of a diagnosis. I cope, but she now copes better because she understands.
Yes.
And that's the important thing. Some people's reaction is, oh, you've got a label. She doesn't view it that way. And isn't it, with everything, isn't it how we choose to view something?
Yes.
We can view something as, or we can think, okay, great. Now I know what I've got to work with. It's our attitude to things. With what happened to me was very important for me to learn as much about the whole situation as I could, so that it wasn't a matter of blame. It was circumstances. It was what it was. I just didn't understand it, and what my parents must have gone through. And so I can, from as the adult perspective, but I've been able to go back and work with that younger aspect of myself. At the end of the day, most children, all they're really looking for is somebody to give them a hug and a cuddle and be there for them, to listen to them. And okay, at that age, sort of first birthday in hospital, there weren't words that I could use. There wasn't anything I could explain. The only thing I could really do was cry. And apparently I did an awful lot of that. Hardly surprising. And so my little one, and I love this quote by Alice Little. I never quote it quite perfectly, but as a traumatized child, we were desperately waiting for the adult that would come and save us. What we didn't understand was that it would be ourselves as an adult. Yeah. The only person, mostly with help, very few people will do it on their own. There are people who can support you, but you are the only person who can heal your child. Your child, it desperately wishes to know that you, the adult, are there for them.
Right.
And
Sorry, hon. I think inner child healing is a lot of that. It's really taking the child from their myopic view of what happened around them to saying, hey, here's a bird's eye view of, what else might have been going on that really, had nothing to do with you or wasn't directed toward you. And that in itself can be freeing. In my situation, there was long-term neglect and abuse. So that's a little trickier, I think. And I'm still kind of exhuming these memories. I had one come through in a dream the other night. And I kind of want to talk about this a little bit. It's what I would call a trigger. Something happens out in the world, or in this case, I had a dream that was actually, it wasn't a hypothetical thing. It was almost like a replaying of the incident. And in that, when I woke up, I said, okay, I hadn't thought about that situation for a while. And it's asking me to go back to it, to illuminate it, to first of all, feel the feelings that I wasn't allowed to. The treatment I was receiving would have been worse if I had, really been able to feel what I was feeling. So first I have to feel those feelings, which honestly may take just a second. A lot of people avoid the feeling because they think it's going to be, huge, but it's really not. And then beneath that feeling is the freedom, is the sense of, I'm okay, I'm loved. I didn't understand this had to happen for XYZ to happen later. So I think that's another another point I wanted to make today was just to watch what triggers us in interactions with other people, dreams that we have that, you know, it's our subconscious saying, hey, this is ready to be, you know, felt and reviewed and let go. And kind of similar to your quote there's a quote by Rumi, which I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was from, I think, the 14th century Persia. But it's the wound is the place that the light enters you. So when we look at these dark spaces, I personally was allowed to channel my intuition and my connection to all that is through artwork. So I had art lessons as a child. And I can remember my teacher saying to me, you cannot have a highlight or, you know, a bright spot on an item if you don't have darkness around it. You have to have darkness and you have to have light. So when you think about, you know, shining a light within yourself, if you shine it on the happy spaces, there's only so much impact that light is going to have. But if you shine it on the dark spaces, wow, that's where you're going to have the most impact to actually feel and see the effect of that light within you.
And I'm listening to sort of all that you're saying, and you sort of talked about it came to you as in a dream. But sometimes, and I never remember my dreams, but then I don't see things, I don't hear things, I just get a massive sense of knowing. But a few years back, I can't remember exactly what happened, but I was out for a walk, and it was just like remembering the day that my jaw got broken by the dentist, which was the catalyst, because I didn't know it was broken for a week. It wasn't the day actually of my jaw being broken. It was the day after I came out of hospital, after they put my jaw back, which is a week later. And I thought about the situation, and I thought that was exactly the same as the rejection I felt as a baby, because what happened was it was the dentist that broke my jaw. As I said, I didn't know it was broken for a week. And it was a 2-hour operation, I think, to put it back into place. There are pins in my jaw. And I came home, and my husband heated up some homemade soup that I'd made, gave that to me, and the following day I was expected to be back to normal. But I actually had the result of 6 months of pain and sleepless nights. I was exhausted at the end of that. But it was just like his attitude of, okay, you're all right now. And it was just like, I wasn't being listened to. I wasn't being heard. And it was understanding that what that did to me, along with the 6 months of pain and sleepless night, was the catalyst, was my wake up, was got me to eventually say, well, obviously you do not care. And when I broke it up, his comment was, but I've got everything I ever wanted, and that includes you. Well, you could have fooled me. But we have to, so sometimes it's remembering something that happened later in life and realizing that actually maybe that, although that was part of the catalyst, was the reminder of how we must have felt as a child.
I'm getting a low battery warning. Hold on.
Oh, can you plug it in?
It's plugged in. I don't know what the deal is.
So hopefully, Kristi's got something she can plug in.
Oh my goodness.
We've got 10 minutes left.
Let's see if that works. All right. I think I might have to actually physically move. Hold on.
Okay, that's all right. Hey, folks, we're real people. These things happen.
All right. Let's
That's
see
all right.
how well we can move and walk at the same time.
That's okay. Oops, we've lost you altogether. Hopefully, she will realize that she has to come back into the room. I'm not sure what's happened. Obviously, her battery's gone flat. Those of you that are watching live, I'm sure Kristi will be back. She knows to come back in using the same link that got her in here in the first place. And I am going to stay here till hopefully she rejoins us. But if any of you have got any questions or any thoughts, any comments on what we have talked about so far, because we appreciate that everybody is unique and we're meant to be unique. So Kristi works with things the way she does. I work with things the way I do, but we both help people to do the same thing, if you like, to reconnect with that inner child within us. And I know I help people. I know that the child feels better. But when I'm working with people in my own unique way, one thing I will say is sometimes the child has to learn to trust us, and they may not join us. They connect. Kristi, great, you're back.
Oh my goodness. So I was all plugged in, but it wasn't connected. So I'm sorry, everyone.
Hey, but this just proves we're human beings, we're real, and we have these things. So that's fine. So different people are nudged in different ways.
Absolutely.
And it's really a matter of, just because you've heard how I get a nudge and how you get a nudge, you're going to be unique in your own way of that nudge. It's about being open to it. That's the important thing, isn't it?
Well, I think kind of, as I said earlier, if we're childlike and we don't, like, for a minute, or for your perspective, watch what you're looking at, first of all, and look around what you're looking at, because, there may be a sign over here, but you're looking here. And don't have fear that you're missing the signs, because, the universe will serve them again or in a different way if you miss it. There really is no wrong way, no right way. Honor your path, how it shows up for you. But when things show up, don't avoid them, because I think maybe that message will get, exacerbated a little bit each time it's served. So take the appetizer.
I think one thing sort of I've heard and been told is, if something comes at you 3 times, the universe is trying to get your attention. So pay attention. And it happened to me. And I was trying to think, Oceanic, Oceanos. And there was a new restaurant that opened here in Bournemouth on the seafront, and it was Oceanos or something. And then I saw a van with something on it as well, which had to do with ocean. And I kept getting an angel card, which was Oceana. And then a friend of mine, we got a website, and he said, Sarah, I've got an email for you. And it's from Oceanic. And it was just like, okay, fine. And so this email said, oh, would I like to come and work in their shop, sort of whatever, sort of doing tasters on the Monday, which is when they were normally closed and whatever. And so I did go and do that for a while. And one of the people that I worked with came in for a taster of Reiki. And oh, crumbs, the tears that came streaming down my cheeks. While at the beginning of the session. And then when I was at it was the base and the sacral, and I always know that's to do with child. But the word that was in my head was dead. And it was just like, how do I say this? Because I didn't know what that really meant. And I said to her when she sort of sat up, and I said, I got so many tears. And she said, yes, my 20-year-old son dropped dead 2 years ago. I was meant to be there for her. She came and had a few sessions with me. I have no idea what happened after that. We don't have to know what happened after that.
Right.
If that supported her through. So sometimes we're listening not just for ourselves, but so that we touch the lives we're meant to. And as we build the confidence in our child, the confidence within us grows. That's what I've found.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, in your example, you weren't necessarily just had to be there for her, but you also had woundings in those chakras of your own body because of your childhood trauma. So as we heal one, we heal all because we are connected. We're masquerading in this illusion that we're separate because we are wearing separate bodies.
Yeah.
But I think, as we work on ourselves, we're really in service. So, if you need a higher reason, to do that work, then just realize that, you could be the one that said, I'm going to heal this for my bloodline. I know I can do that. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. So yes, those messages can come from various ways, and we can ignore them for sure, but it's about really understanding ourselves, I think, as more than just a physical body, and understanding that sometimes the answers we seek for things that are physical are totally non-physical. There's the yin and yang symbol, which I love so much, because everything in this world, you've probably heard the word duality. Everything is in duality. There's good and bad. There's black and white. And many times we focus on just those extremes, but I find there's like the rainbows happen kind of in the middle of those. And also, if you look at yin and yang, it's in a circle. And I believe that circle is source, God, all that is the universe, holding everything in balance. So the more we can trust that things are happening for us rather than to us, and that we're going to, get through the other side. If it's not better, we're not at the end yet. I think, it gives us that win-win position where we can actually be enjoying our life while we're living through, the process of living through a world that can be bumpy and lumpy and bruisey.
Oh, so life is a roller coaster. Don't expect it to be flat, because it's never going to be. Yvonne says, good afternoon.
I'm just...
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yvonne says, good afternoon. I'm watching from Maine.
Hi, Yvonne. Thanks for coming in.
We're coming to the end of the program. So is there anything we haven't touched on? And by all means, do share your books before we close.
Okay. Well, the books, and also the story about my my interaction with the eagle, and also that kind of reading where I kind of remembered what I had done. Those are on my About page if anybody wants to read that. This is the first book I participated in, called Be the Beacon. And this is actually a phrase I use for empaths. Don't be a sponge, be a beacon. But my chapter in here is This Little Light of Mine, which kind of talks about my kind of remembering my higher spiritual self. And then this book is Unmuted Voices. My chapter in there is The Vibe to Thrive, kind of talking about escaping the shoulds and kind of ancestral program of who you are expected to be, and learning to have more ability to set boundaries and make your own choices as an adult. I guess as far as anything else I want to share, let me just look at my notes. I guess, just think about whether you were told you're too much or you're not enough. I would urge you to start telling yourself you're just right. And the more and more you can come back to that sense of beingness that you came into this world with, what many people call the true self, the more you're showing up as that one that was picked to come here because you had the stuff to help change this world here and now.
Yeah. Kristi, thank you so very much. Yes, and we should absolutely believe in ourselves. I love this. I love synchronicities. Sheila says, early morning Thursday in Victoria, Australia. Our guest next week is in Australia. Stefania Paolo is joining us for our today's conversation program for The Masculine Edge. I'm really looking forward to that conversation because we've got Scott, Michael, myself, and Stefania. So we've got the masculine energies there with us. So thank you to each and every one of you for joining us, especially you, Kristi. Thank you for those of you who've been listening and been mostly very quiet. I hope that everything that we've shared has supported you. The website is in the chat, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please look under within the information below. Kristi's website is absolutely in there. If this has spoken to you in any way, check it out, and you can connect with Kristi if that feels right for you. Thank you, Kristi. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Sara Jane. Always fun.
Absolutely, because we've done a number of programs in very different places together. So it's been brilliant to connect with you again, because there's been a bit of a gap. Take care. Be safe. Stay well, folks. Namaste. Bye.
Bye-bye.